Good evening, everybody. It is March 9th, 2020, and I am so excited to have this episode of Manifesting with Meg with the extraordinary Andrew Deutsch. Tonight, we learn about profound wisdom and how leaders empower others. I got to tell you, this is going to be an exceptional interview. I know it because not only is this gentleman incredibly smart, but he is hilarious. So I'm hoping I put him on the spot right now, so I make sure that he'll give a couple humorous anecdotes so we can all have a little laughter on this Monday night, which I think we can all use in light of everything that's going on in the world. I certainly could use it. So Andrew Deutsch, it is a pleasure to have you with me tonight. Thank you so much for agreeing. Especially, I think it's actually quite amazing that you're on my episode about profound wisdom, because you always seem to know so much about so many things that I think it's actually amazing that you get to share it with everybody tonight. So thank you for joining us tonight.
Hey, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Oh my God, this is fantastic. And it's so funny because right now I always seem to have perfect things happen in perfect time. So I know that whatever you have to share is going to be so moving or profound to anyone out there who's listening tonight. And I really, really am excited to introduce you. So before we go on, and before I introduce you, I do want to ask you to set your intention and then pick a number, and we'll go from there, because I think when it comes to intention, certainly behind any interview or any experience, when you are focused on what you want, the thing that you want usually does unfold and even better sometimes. So go ahead and do that, and then we'll get going here.
So pick a number. The number that I had picked was 253 from your book.
Oh, so 253, and then at the end, you're going to have to tell us what your intention was. So we can clarify that at the end.
I'll do everything I can to keep it a secret, I promise.
Okay, just give me 1 second. I'm going to make sure that we're all aboard here and going live and everything is ready to, yes, we are. We're good to go. So, all right. So everybody, this is Andrew Deutsch. And I have to tell you, I've met him 30 years ago when we went, actually, I think I was at University of Miami. We were getting ready to go to, actually getting these kids ready to go on their exchange program with American Field Service. And I had the pleasure of meeting Andrew and a lot of other individuals who had gone on AFS before. But ever since, Andrew has catapulted his career through many different facets. And I just want to give you a little bit of a preview into him. He's a multilingual global marketing and sales consultant who has successfully driven business growth in more than 100 countries, extensive global travel experience, and creatively melding practical strategies, business concepts with solid psychological theory, which is what his background is all about. He is, in fact, a trained psychologist. Correct, Andrew?
Yeah.
Yes. Amazing. So basically, he had a combined degree in international trade with a psychology-based master's degree to build his unique methodology for building go-to-market strategies that focus on understanding not just customer needs, but the underlying motivators that lead to sales, which is one of the things that we're going to be talking about tonight if we get there. But like I have to tell you, we are definitely conversationalists. So who knows what's going to unfold with this interview tonight. But it all is about profound wisdom. And like I said, leaders who empower others. I think what is most profound about Andrew is that he is the proud father of 3 and grandfather of 2, which is shocking. I can't believe that. And when he is not helping companies grow, he's actively involved in his many hobbies, including woodworking and restoration, which is fantastic. Glass artistry, knitting, and saltwater aquariums, among others. I love that you have aquariums. That is fascinating to me. You've also been an active volunteer in junior achievement and as a mentor to new entrepreneurs, which I think that's a fantastic, the mentoring component, when you have the knowledge and the wisdom to share it and pass it forward, pay it forward, so that you can build up the generation right behind you is amazing. So you are focused on giving them the foundations for success in their ventures, which I think is really, really, really important. So Andrew, share a little bit about yourself that your CV doesn't tell us about.
Well, I think we probably ought to warn the people watching that we've been friends for so many years. Usually the conversations go off in 3,000 directions, so we'll try to keep it. I guess we'll try to keep it focused today.
3,000, because we only have one night.
Awesome. Maybe 1,000 different topics.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah. No, it. Going back to just the stuff from the resume. I mean, legitimately, I've lived several careers that have taken me to where I am now in private consulting. I mean, I began working after graduating from my undergrad and working for a nonprofit as an executive, and then went back to school to study psychology and its applications in industry to build a future. And then life took me down to South America for about 10 years, where I lived in Brazil and met my wife and children, and then came back to the States and continued to run the international game until physically I just couldn't do it anymore. The day I decided I was done with that career, I weighed about 365 pounds.
Wow.
And decided that my health came before the dollars.
Wow.
And really changed my focus, dropped 160 pounds, focused on much more domestic, but still within the realm of growing business and doing what I really enjoy, and carried through that until now. I've decided, rather than making other people in their companies into millionaires as a employee, have now gone out into my own private consulting company full time, and really enjoying growing this business and doing great things for my clients.
You know, a lot of the show is about manifesting, and a lot of the people who do tune into the show, they certainly have I think a yearning, because I think that they're like wanting something more and ready to jump and take that leap of faith, and they're not quite ready yet, but they like to hear inspirational stories from my guests so that they might have a little bit more of a seed planted to push them along. And I say this because you did basically sell everything and move to Brazil. And I think to start your whole life over with your dog, I remember your dog. And the whole idea, I think it was, I don't know, brand new start. But that's, I guess, the question I have for you. What was the impetus behind you basically saying, okay, I'm done here, I'm going to go check it out and see if there's something else out there for me?
Well, there were sort of two factors to it. One, working as a therapist for the period of time that I was, while I was trying to build my business consulting on the side, basically was sparked by the change of the politics in the state of Florida, where I went from being able to bill medical insurance for my services to not overnight. Mm-hmm. So the laws changed, and for me to continue to be in practice doing what I was doing, I would have had to have now gone from being independent and growing a practice to being under the thumb of either a psychiatrist or medical doctor to be able to get paid for my services. At the same time, I had developed such great contacts through the AFS work that we met during, that it gave me an opportunity to go down to Brazil for what really was supposed to be maybe a 3 to 6 month stay, and then come back and rethink. Got to Brazil, and the opportunities were so great, and met so many influential people, including who became my wife, and decided that I would take the risk and stay. So my 90-day to 6 month visit to Brazil turned into 10 years.
How many years? 10 years?
Yeah, I was there for 10 years.
Wow, 10 years. Did it go by fast?
Sort of. I mean, it when I first arrived there, it was all new and interesting, and I was, I wasn't able to speak a foreign language at that time, so I had to learn, and was really getting business going. And kind of the irony of it was, in the States, I was another guy who kind of knew stuff, but Brazil had just opened its market to foreign trade, and no one there knew much at all about how to grow business in the global market, didn't have contacts. Remember, the internet didn't exist back in those days yet. Everything was fresh and new. So by me changing where I was on the globe, the perception of my knowledge went up. I went from being a guy who kind of knew stuff to an expert in the eyes of the people I was with. And then it's always that, do you take the risk of going, yes, I know how to do that, and go out and figure out how to do it, even though you don't know? Right. Or do you sit there like a dope and go, I don't know? So I took on big challenges, and it paid off.
It paid off. I it's so funny because you went from one of many, like the big pond, like one of many, to a place where your talents and your skills were sought after, and it catapulted your career to the point where you could actually decide to come back here, and you had amassed more networking, more connections. But it was because you took that risk at the outset that opened the doors for you. And, I think that, like I said, we've been friends for many years. And I think that, we were talking about connections earlier too. It's those networking connections that over time, you don't really know where they're going to go. The collaboration may appear later on in life. And I know that you are a person who values connections and collaborations. Why don't you, expound on that a little?
Well, there's a great author named Amy Wilkerson who wrote a book called the Creator's Key, I think it is.
Oh, I gotta write these down.
I'll have to. I probably have the name of the book wrong, but she examined top entrepreneurs in the world and what they had in common. And one of the things that she discovered, which I've always believed, is that when people give little gifts, small gifts, as they do their job, it comes back to pay off. So, for example, as a consultant, if someone comes to me today and says, "Hey, my kid's got this great business idea. Can he talk to you for a few minutes?" I don't charge for that, because if I can help that person either see that it's a great idea or recognize that maybe they need to go back to the drawing board and work on it.
Yeah.
So over the years, no matter where I am, I've always done that. So for example, someone who came to work for me during my days in Brazil, a buyer from a customer of mine said, "Hey, my daughter needs an internship." She was 16 years old. She came in my office, recognized she was brilliant, trained her, coached her, mentored her. And then as the years went on, she went on to college, and now she's a very successful executive in a big internet company down in Brazil.
Wow.
Which none of it was because I was looking for a payback, but if I needed access to that, she's an expert who years ago, because of the network and because of the willingness to mentor, she's a wonderful human being, a great person. And if I never got anything in return, I'm still rewarded, because the little secret of mentoring people is the person doing the mentoring usually learns more than the person who's being mentored and gains more from it.
I love the idea of people taking time to, help someone else that you see a spark in. And I think that is just so profound, because it's the ripple effect that you have no idea what will happen in the future. I mean, imagine that she's impacting others in the same way that you impacted her, because of the fact that she had that experience on her journey. I think that's fantastic. And as far as wisdom is concerned, today's theme is be open to wisdom from the unlikeliest sources as well. Like, I'm sure on your journey from, living in the States, going to Brazil, coming back again, I think that, when people feel that they're stuck, it's that they're not paying attention to perhaps those signs that would give you that, kind of like a clue. I think kind of like a mystery clue, if you think about it that way, to guide you in a direction that will get you unstuck. Where on your path has that happened, if that speaks to you at all?
Yeah, it's interesting, because some of it is intentional, and the best of it was unintentional. I'll give you an example. I grew up in outside of Cleveland, at a school that you certainly couldn't say that it was mixed. We had I would say the majority of the school was either Catholic or Jewish, and then there were some other groups, and there were a few Black kids that I was friends with in school, but really didn't have, I couldn't say that I had a growing up in the Black experience sort of thing, although just had really kind friends in my life. Well, went to college, graduated, and my first boss was a Black guy who was a brilliant businessman. His name was Joe Gaston, who now lives, I think he's in Texas. And my first job, my supervisor was a guy who grew up in the South in Mississippi and made a name for himself and taught me so much. And there's a long story behind it, but I had been in a motorcycle accident and he took me in.
Oh, wow.
And took care of me. He and his wife so generously did. And years later, because of the beauty of social media, I found him again.
Oh, you did?
I was able, when I was in Texas, to invite him and thank him.
Wow, that's awesome.
Directly for everything he did for me.
Wow, that's amazing.
But the indirect thing that did was it really did expand my mind about people who were different than me. Grew up in a different experience, grew up in you know, the kinds of significant more difficulty in community and otherwise than a white kid from the suburbs grew up with, and gave me an appreciation for a professional that didn't look like me, didn't come from my background, but truly became a mentor and a good friend.
Wow.
So those are the kinds of things that I like to impart, you know, on folks myself, that if I'm of a different background, it doesn't mean that we can't get along, and we don't have to agree on ideology and otherwise. The generosity that people put forward really is more of a connection.
Yeah, I agree with that. You know, I was wondering with regard to your experience with the exchange program. I don't remember exactly where you went with AFS. Did you? I keep thinking Belgium or something. I don't know why.
It was Sweden.
It was Sweden. Okay,
Yeah.
So you went to Sweden.
Yeah, in a little town called Strängnäs, where, again, because of the beauty of the work that I do, a customer of mine in Sweden found my host family that I had lost touch with.
That's crazy.
And I consider them family today.
Wow, that's amazing.
And my friends that came to me because of them are some of my favorite people on the planet. We communicate through Facebook. When I'm in Sweden, everyone gets together, and they're truly some of the most I'm so lucky in my life to have so many really quality people that I consider to be my friends. And you know they're friends because the moment you get back together, the conversation picks up right where it left off.
Yeah.
The time has passed.
And you can even joke about not having any pants on during an interview, huh, Andrew?
You'll never know. You'll never know.
The beauty of this.
The beauty of the camera to hear is pants optional.
It's optional. But I just want to tell, you know, one of the things I love about exchange, my exchange experience, and I think that, well, certainly one of the things is I got to meet you. And another thing is that, you know, it does help you look outside the norm of your own country, and then jumping out, and then you're open to a world where people welcome you and accept you and you know, invite you into their lives and their families and share their life. I think that does have a profound effect on someone who is, I think I was 16 when I went. I don't remember how old you were, but I know that at that young age, certainly it does change the trajectory, at least as far as where you see your borders and ready to jump out of them.
Yeah, there's I'm going to butcher it. I don't have it written here in front of me, but Mark Twain had made a statement years ago that the cure for bigotry and narrow-mindedness basically is travel.
Oh, I love it.
And it's interesting, in the international business world, there's two different kinds of people that I think there are. And I usually don't stereotype, except that stereotypes are a definite time saver. But there are people who, when they walk in the room, see everything that's different. Mm-hmm. And there's people who walk in the room and see things that are the same. Mm-hmm. So a person goes on a plane and flies to a foreign country, and they want to find the McDonald's to see what it's like, because they walk through a store and go, oh, I've seen these things before. And then there's the people who go to a country and the only thing that they're looking for is what's new and what they can learn.
Yeah.
And when it comes to the creative world of international trade, if you're the guy who counts the beans, you're a similarity person. You're looking for the McDonald's when you land. And those of us that were involved in really growing business from a marketing, sales, and otherwise perspective, you can only succeed if you're a difference person and rejoice in the difference in the learning.
Well, I think that the beautiful thing about the differences, let's talk about that, you know, as far as wisdom is concerned, is that it does open your world to a different perspective. And I think I was writing yesterday, I think it really kind of hit me because, you know, we all try to compartmentalize, you know, like you said, stereotypes just basically because it just takes less time and you can just sum people up in a second and that's it, and then move on, which is really quite unfair because many people are so, it doesn't matter what, you know, they're so diverse in their own families, forget about, you know, other families. So, you know, when I was thinking about perspective, it's really quite interesting because you are in sales. And I think one of the benefits behind you having so many different perspectives to your life is that you're able to meet people where they are. And I think that is an amazing attribute for a salesperson, for sure.
Yeah, and it's, you know, I'm in sales, but also very much involved in the marketing side of business.
Right.
which is unusual. Usually you find male marketing guys, you find sales guys.
Yeah.
But those of us that really build marketing programs designed so that salespeople could succeed, we're a subset. But it's also in the world of psychology. When you're dealing with people that have mental illness, you meet people at their model of the world and draw them towards something better, or something more meaningful, or something healthier. It's the same in a sales call. It's the same in developing marketing. You know, one of the things that I always talk about in marketing and sales is that features of your product don't matter. And I say that sort of sarcastically. It's the benefits that people buy. It's the heart and mind of the product. I'll give you an example. Have you ever heard someone say, I'm going to get a Rolex watch because it's a precision timepiece?
Yeah.
No, people buy Rolex watches because it's bragging rights, proof I've arrived. It's about my ego. It's about being able to go, hey, look, who buys a car with a seat heater? No, you buy a car with one of those comfortable seats that keeps you warm in the winter.
Yes.
It's that benefit that people seek. So, you know, as you're designing and looking at all the things that matter to the customer and understanding who the customer is, then you can really talk about what it is about your product that brings them benefit, that solves the problem they're looking for. So that's really what sales is.
I like what you said about marketing and psychology, and that, you know, if you're dealing with someone with a mental illness, that basically you're trying to bring them towards, what was that again? Say that again, because I thought that was very profound. You were saying that, you know,
meeting you meet people at their model of the world and draw them towards what you believe is a better model. A bad psychologist just drives you even further into the
again, you meet people where they are. I think that's pretty profound. I do believe that, you know, when, you know, it's Stephen Covey says, seek to understand, then be understood, right? And I think that is along the same lines as what you're saying. Meet people where they are. Unless you know where they are, actually ask the questions, which I think you're very good at, then you won't truly speak the language that they're listening to, so they'll never hear you. And I think in the grand scheme of life, you know, on a social level that we're dealing with, you know, on a daily basis, and work and play professionally, personally, I think that's an amazing quality to have, is that you can identify those points of connection rather than division. And I think that you do that very well.
And the most successful salespeople are the ones that get the realization that they're not selling products, they're solving problems. So if you're developing a product, it's really good to know what are the pains that your product can solve and design to the pain.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, you know, you're making something that may or may not solve a problem. How are you going to compete?
So you design to the pain? Yeah.
So for example, one of the product lines that I'm working with right now is a mixing system. It's for mixing chemicals. But the people who designed this product recognized that there were significant issues that existed with the kinds of mixing blades that exist in the market. So taking all of those pains and the issues that are created by those, they hired an engineer who had nothing to do with that industry and said, we need a blade that can perform all of these things to resolve the issues that these are creating. And he designed to the pain. And now there's a system that's a complete and total change in how people mix chemicals and coatings and paints without any of the issues that previous products had created.
So it's kind of like on the shoulders of a giant, you go further, right? I mean, someone had the issue, they expanded on it, and they solved that pain so that they're able to see other pitfalls and improve.
So if you hadn't designed that, you would be calling people saying, I've got another blade that can do what yours does, and maybe I've got a better, mine's cheaper.
Yeah.
Or I have one that, you know, some feature that's there. In this case, we know that when people use blades in your product, these are the issues that are created, and these are real problems that create warranty issues, that spoil the product, that don't get proper mixing. We've solved that. I've got something that can solve your problem. Now it's not a price issue. It's an issue of, here's a value. Last year you had this much waste because you used the wrong product. This is going to save you money, and by the way, you're going to pay for it. So it's a whole different, it's a different approach.
So let me ask, so I want to ask you this, because I think it's really kind of important, because you get very passionate about what you do. I had conversations with you where, you know, and you are really very, very generous with your talents as well. At least with regard to people who you care to mentor, as far as that's concerned. I don't know if they come to you and they're bothering you, if you don't want anything to do with them, that'd be another story altogether. But I think when you come to the table with great passion, it does allow you to further go outside your comfort zone because you're seeking more opportunities that align with that passion. So when I ask people, people always want to dream, right? They always dream, and they're like, they're kind of scared to dream because they're afraid to not achieve those dreams. Mm-hmm. What would you say as a passionate person to someone who, you're like, you got to dream bigger, you've got to expand your horizons? What would you say to help them open their mind to different perspectives that will have them, achieving or realizing their dreams?
Well, there's two sides to that. Sometimes you recognize that the dream they're seeking really isn't a possibility, or that if they were to rethink it in a different way, it may not be exactly what they're seeing now, but there's something that could be significantly better. I mean, if somebody comes to me and pitches something and says, hey, I really need help because I want to go to the market to do this, and I really don't think it's good, I don't do the disservice of going follow your dream. I do the service of, hey, let's rethink this. Have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? I'll give you a crazy example. So I was lecturing at the International master's degree program at Cleveland State. A professor had asked me to come and talk to his class about international trade. And there was a young man who came up to me afterwards and says, can I please talk to you? I need your advice. I said, absolutely. Well, his goal was he was going to make a multi-million-dollar business in the US because in Pakistan, where he's from, they have a hair gel that outperforms every hair gel for men in the world.
Hair gel.
And that was the business. His entire business plan was, I know. And I said, well, how do you know that hair gel is better than anything else on the market? People compliment my hair every day. And that was his business plan. And this is a guy in his final year getting his master's degree in international trade.
Okay.
And I said, okay, have you looked at what are the requirements by the FDA to make a hair gel, and what are the ingredients that in your product compatible? I haven't looked at that.
No.
Have you looked at the shelf to see if there's anything out there? Have you tested every hair gel to see if maybe there's something similar? No. Have you looked at what it costs to get on the shelf at a store? All the most people don't realize you pay for the space in a retail store to sell your product, especially like supermarket. No. Have you looked at the cost? No. Have you done a survey to see if Americans would trust a product coming from Pakistan that they're putting on their body? No. About 20 questions, and I said, I'm not trying to crush your spirit.
Yeah.
I want you to understand that it's very possible that you do have the greatest hair gel ever made. And it's also possible that it's a hill way higher to climb than maybe finding something more practical to come to market with. And afterwards, he got my email from the professor, and he sent me a letter, and it basically said, you opened my eyes. I really hadn't contemplated all of those kinds of things.
So is it on the market?
I don't know. We didn't keep in touch. I don't know what he's doing now.
Yeah.
But sometimes when the dream, if my dream is to fly without an airplane or wings, and I'm not willing to jump out of a plane with a suit, it's not a dream that I want people encouraging me to do.
Oh.
So, I don't.
Okay. I see your point. Oh Lord. It's funny because I am like, me well enough that I'm a dreamer, and I'm like, I get mad when the dream quashers come, but I imagine if your dream is to fly with no airplane and no wings, I would be a little bit more concerned about that dream. I can see where you're coming from.
Yeah.
However, let's say someone comes to you and they say they have this dream and it's possible. It's a possibility, and they always say, if you're 50 years old and you want to play for the NFL, the likelihood of that being more than the football maybe is that, it's not going to happen unless, it's I don't know, some kind of fluke.
Yeah, well, I don't do it because I just don't want to have to hurt those kids.
Oh, yeah, give them a break.
Yeah, I mean, and many times the idea is good, but one of my favorite quotes that's my quote is, I've never once had a brilliant idea that somebody else didn't help me make better.
Oh, that's a good quote.
I say it all the time to people that, as soon as your ego is such that your brilliant ideas are just brilliant, then it's probably time to check yourself in somewhere with padded walls and a straight. But so someone will come and this is the most common thing with mentoring sessions with people I don't know, is this is what my idea is. And it's, boy, that could really work. Have you thought of this?
Yeah.
And you ask, you don't tell, you ask these probing questions that evoke thought.
Which is a good approach. Or, imagine in psychology, that's what they probably want you to do. That makes sense. Yeah. So they don't.
It may be that probing question is a difficult one to answer. I would hope so. Because at the end of the day, if you're going to start a business, you're going to bring a product to market, you're going to do something new and innovative, you got to have the fortitude to do it, and you have to be willing to think it through from every angle. I mean, the most common one that comes up is, somebody wants to open up, let's say, a donut shop, and the first thing you do is say, what's the difference of your donut? Why would someone want your donut over somebody else's? And they may say, well, I've got a recipe that's different and it's unique, or I'm making them in the shape of something odd that's going to get people laughing. There's a place in Portland, Oregon, line out the door, the Voodoo Donut Shop.
Oh yeah,
And someone had a great idea of making these bizarre donuts that are so unique. So what is it that's unique about it? Now here's the next step. How many donuts do you have to sell in a day to make the income that you want to make out of your business?
Right.
Can you, in a single location, do that? Because you got to look at the numbers too. I mean, just because they're unique, if you sold 10,000 donuts a day, would you make enough money to pay your bills? I don't know. Have you done the math? And then now that you've come up with this idea, who's your customer? You're not your customer.
But the cool thing is, though, he had the idea.
Mm-hmm.
He had the idea, and had he not tried, he would never know what kind of impressive, establishment he's established. That's clear. So where's the balance between, this big dream versus this, oh my God, all the minutia that, I get, well, literally, I don't like to talk about the minutia, because getting lost in the weeds for me is going from this creative burst or spark to, oh my God, where the hell am I? I'm like some in the jungle, if you talk to me about all that other stuff. That's why you've always, not insisted, but, suggest then get someone who is a good consultant to help you where your weaknesses may lie. So if the idea person marrying up literally with a business person who can help you navigate better, so that you don't come to the end of your, you're ready to launch and you're not ready to launch.
Yeah. And where most entrepreneurs fail is they don't understand the customer, and they don't understand how much they have to do to really make it happen properly and be funded properly to be able to get through the session until it becomes a profitable business.
Right.
A great example, you are, as far as I'm concerned, if you buy a single Subway franchise, you're not an entrepreneur. You're somebody who bought a job. Everything's mapped out for you. There's only so much you're going to make in that location.
So what's your definition of entrepreneur then?
Yeah, an entrepreneur is someone who can take with a unique idea and create a business around it that's profitable.
Does it have to be unique, or does it have to be uniquely yours?
Well, if you wanted to be the entrepreneur in the Subway sub shop, which I would never own, is the person who recognizes that they want to manage restaurants, and they create a plan to begin to expand and have multiple locations, have economy of scale, and really grow that business. That's entrepreneurial. Buying yourself a job as a franchise, I don't see that as entrepreneurial. And there's a lot of people that right now are going, he's full of it. I've seen too many people buy themselves employment.
Yeah.
Rather than buying in or creating something that they can grow and do more with. A conversation just this week, someone who had caught up with me on LinkedIn, I don't know her, and I'm not going to share what her business was because she asked me not to.
Okay.
She has an idea for a business. Now, her goal is, I'm a single mom with 3 kids. I want a job that I can do from home, that I grow myself. And I want to be able to have it big enough to do what I want to do and feed and get my kids through school. That's honest. She's not looking to be a multimillionaire. And with her skill set, she has something that she can do. And now the question is, how does she let the market know so that she creates a value proposition that people recognize immediately what it is that she brings them in benefit. If I do business with you, I'm going to be able to get this for my money, and enough of them so that she can book her schedule and do what it is that she does. Very entrepreneurial. It's not massive, but it is an entrepreneurial skill. I've got this great idea. I know how to do it. I've learned it over the years. How do I go to market and make it profitable? And who knows, she may be so good at it that eventually she says, you know what, I've got more customers than I can deal with. Let me train some more people and grow this.
Right.
But that's entrepreneurial. Telling someone, a lot of people who buy a franchise, they've been fired from so many jobs, they just want to have something they can't fire themselves from. And I'm being a little sarcastic there, but it's true. It isn't entrepreneurial.
So I think that, okay, so this is manifesting with Meg. This show is about manifesting the life of your dreams. And in this particular instance, when you're talking about someone who, wants to have a job they can't get fired from, it is empowering. You have to say,
yeah, absolutely.
And when you start to come from a place where you don't feel like you have any control or power over your life or your destiny or where you're going, you do jump into something like that. It might just, spark a light inside that maybe there are other avenues or anything else. At least you have the freedom of somewhere to go that that you can make a living. And at the same time, like your friend, you were talking about the woman, take care of the things that you so want to take care of. So when you're talking about, manifesting, how you show up in this world and then taking control of your life versus being at the control of others, it's a very different energy. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah. But the skill set, when you get to that next level, changes.
Right.
So the fact that you're a person who is buying yourself a job, if you don't take the time to learn how to be a leader as you start hiring people in that company, you were a worker bee before, and you were maybe really, really good at what you did, but that isn't the skill set that makes you a manager of people.
Right.
There's another book on the list of books that you have to read before you move on to the next level and work, is a book called What Got You Here Won't Get You There. I want to say his name is Goldman. I'm terrible with but
right. You're gonna have to give me all these so I can put it on the feed.
Yeah, I'll send it to you later. But that book is really, as a salesman, and my career up until a certain point in time, I was a global hunter. My job was to find markets for products all over the world in places you've never heard of. I mean, we had a special piece of equipment specific to the cotton industry. Uzbekistan is one of the largest populations in the world processing cotton after India. As a matter of fact, the regime of Uzbekistan requires every citizen to pick a certain amount of cotton every year as their civil duty.
Seriously.
So how do you find the right person in Uzbekistan to buy this tool that's used for baling cotton with polyester strapping? That was the kind of thing that would just get me going. I'm gonna get this Uzbekistan, and I did. I did. I was told the tool would never sell in India. We found 1,000 baling stations in Gujarat where they baled cotton, and through this tool that was designed, we found market for it, and we sold huge volumes of a tool that could never be sold. That was what excited me. Now, you take that hunter and you go, okay, now you've got 12 guys, you're their boss. Teach them how to do it. Coach them. And as the hunter, the guys are doing a terrible job. Your first response is, let me show you.
Right.
Let me help you understand how to do it, and within your style, coach you to hit the numbers. So this book really showed me that all of the skill set that I built to be that killer hunter out in the international market was completely a set of useless skills to be able to lead a sales team.
But that's interesting, though, because you said you wrote an article recently on leaders who empower others to take the lead and to do the things that they don't realize that they're able to do.
What I had said in that was that, a true leader does give direction, but they don't give instructions.
Yeah,
that's different.
Well,
helping a sales guy understand where he needs to be, and having them share their ideas of how to do it, and giving them cues and ideas and goals and what not to waste their time with and what to work on and otherwise is sort of part of that whole coaching phenomenon. And you don't learn to be a coach when you're a hunter.
No.
You have people trying to coach you, and you also know you don't have time for them unless they're really good.
Yeah.
So it's a completely different skill set. Most great salespeople never become great leaders of sales teams because they just don't have the skill set. Nobody ever told them to sit down and read that book and incorporate new things in their lives. It's very important.
Well, so let's switch, because I really want to get to the nitty-gritty with regards to how you manifest in your own life. And the quote today is Joan Jett, and she says, "I'm concentrating on staying healthy, having peace, being happy, remembering what's important, taking in nature and animals, spending time reading, and trying to understand the universe where science and spiritual meet." And, I think when you look at your life and you think about, I know that you had said your quote as well. When you look at what's important to you now, having all the success of your professional career and personally as well, looking at your life now and now it's time to manifest. What is important to you now?
I still really enjoy the thrill of things working and winning when it comes to the business world. So like we were talking before about people I mentor, I am just as thrilled to hear that someone who I've worked with just blew it out of the park and made a fortune on their own based on the work that we did together as I am if I'm the one who did it. So those victories are real important to me. And then my creative pursuits, having enough time that I can go out to my shop and work on a woodworking project, that I can, for the holidays, knit my wife a scarf or a sweater for a gift.
You do have knitting under your table, don't you? I know I saw it before. You're knitting or he actually does knit. I swear to God, beautiful things too. At
the motorcycle accident I talked about years ago, I lost most of the use of my right hand.
Oh wow!
It's kind of funny because I was looking for something with repetitive tasks to really get my hand working again, and the physical therapist suggested crochet.
Oh really?
And I found it interesting, and I went into a knitting shop and saw all this beautiful stuff around, and talked to this older woman that worked there, and she said, "Well, knitting's kind of a craft. If you want to make something you want to keep, you have to. Crochet is kind of a craft.
Yeah.
You should learn to knit." So I bought a book, I bought a ball of yarn and a set of needles, and got the basics, and then I'd go back in, and she would give me classes, and if I bought yarn, I'd get free classes, and I learned and started to recognize that knitting is no different than woodworking or anything else. There's a series of steps. It's an engineering accomplishment to create these different stitches and how they work together. And I started doing my own design work, and really, it's a fascinating thing. The other side of it is that repetitive task completely changes the way my brain is working and puts me into almost a meditative state.
Yeah.
Then you say it is a meditative state.
Meditative state.
And when I'm done, the ideas and things that I was fishing around in my head looking for solutions sometimes come to me because my brain had the time to shut off long enough to actually follow through and figure stuff out.
Amazing. Yeah.
Of course, it was kind of fun sitting in the store with all these other older ladies sitting around the table. For some reason, thought that I should meet their nephews, and otherwise, and they didn't quite get that really wasn't my preference in life. But I was flattered that they wanted to be part of their family.
Oh, that's great. Oh my God, you're too much. I think it's also, you probably got a lot of wisdom in your little sewing circle. So I think that that's also a place where, people used to come together and like, gossip about
Yeah,
back in the old days, right?
yeah. Well, it was mostly, I imagine, kind of the same stuff that my daughter, who's works in a high-end salon down in Columbus, Ohio,
Yeah.
the kind of stuff that the women are talking about there also.
Yeah.
I got a little inside scoop. It's kind of like, I know you also can speak multiple languages. It's like when you're sitting in a room and people are talking about you and they don't know you can understand them.
Exactly. It's like, really? Like, really? I always say it's it's that karmic or that serendipitous opportunity when you get a clue into what you're not supposed to know, but you find out what you're really supposed to know. And in certain ways, you're just like, of course, the little God winks in the world. Yeah. I do want to ask you also, what do you prioritize in this, 2020, the roaring 20s, where, anything is possible or any probable, or as long as you set out to discover it? What are your priorities now?
Well, right now, because I made the decision to go solo and really reinvigorate my consulting business as my primary income, my priorities have changed quite a bit. I'm spending a great deal more time than I used to on the business.
Yes.
So a lot of my hobbies have sort of gotten to the side, and I'm not able to spend more than a couple of hours a week, and I'm willing to make that sacrifice to get things going where they're going. So the kinds of things that I really enjoy doing, going out to exotic restaurants to eat crazy stuff, and a lot of that, I'm not spending my time and my money on those things.
Yeah.
But instead having family over. Spending those hours, instead of going out, I'm staying in. So really just making sure that this new business is going to grow and be successful as it's going forward. But as soon as
I do want to add here that Elisa says if you've written a book, that she'd love to read it. So maybe there is a book in your future as well. So as far as your insight and your advice, that's really extremely valuable. She says here that it could help other people, as like a faraway mentor to others. Maybe that would be something now that you have your own business.
It is, and it's sort of on the back burner until I get to it. I've got some very specific goals in terms of monetary income, mm-hmm. so that I can then hire some more staff, which I'm in the process of doing, and get back to it. I'm actually writing a book. And it's based on my theory of marketing, which really applies to so many things in life. That if you build your entire marketing strategy for your company based on every person that your company touches eventually can become an advocate for what you do and who you are, rather than just trying to get the sale. The sales are going to happen when you have advocates. And the beauty of it is, in this internet age of just the meanest stuff going on the internet, there's community websites where someone will say, I have a broken this, can someone recommend someone? And there's 20 people going, what's wrong with you? You insert expletive, figure it out on your own, kind of stuff.
Wow.
And the meanness and sarcasm, the trolls on the internet are completely and totally gone when people love your brand and who you are, and they're your advocate because they take care of it.
Yeah.
They're the ones that are going to put up the lead going, this guy's a troll, leave him. You don't have to defend yourself because you've done such a great job and you brought so much value to the people that they come. I'll give you an example. A famous female singer like a Taylor Swift. What happens when somebody says something nasty about her? I'm no fan. I don't listen to her. But I adjacent to people, somebody says something nasty about her, there's a million fans that will come out and obliterate the troll.
It's true.
So if you build your business based on every person you touch should become an advocate, what you're really doing is you're solving people's problems. You're bringing the products, the services that they really need. Mm-hmm. They love them and they tell the world, and they become part of your marketing team.
I really like that, because once you engage literally a whole slew of fans because your brand is good and solid and valuable to them, you have real value, then you're right. They'll come to your aid faster than you defending yourself. So I think that's really a good point, that you don't really have to engage in the low energy trolls or low energy vibration. I think that's a good point for life, is that when people are coming after you for whatever reason, you don't really need to engage, because the legacy that you're living as a part of your whole life, your own life, how you are, is going to speak for itself. And people will rise to that occasion and certainly speak for you, because and I think that goes a long way when you're talking about the young girl that you were mentoring. Certainly people remember the good things. They remember the good things you do. And I know that everyone quotes the Maya Angelou quote. It's I'm not going to remember what they say, but it's going to be who you were to them and how you treated them. That's going to be substantial and really catapult people into the possibility of their own dreams and how they treat other people as well, which I think is fantastic.
Yeah, take it to the next level though on this, and it relates to your book. So a person who writes a book that really makes a change and really helps people in their lives, and I know that there are people who've gotten your books that it made a change in their life, and they become advocates, and you can see the number of people who are listening to this show saying wonderful things, and they really have benefited. So now the next thing that you do, you have this horde of advocates who truly benefited from what you do, which gives a total reason to believe that the next thing that you do is going to be that great, if not better. And before the book even hits the stand, there's going to be people lining up to buy it. So all of the work that you did built up to that. It's the same in creating advocates. What happens when companies like Apple have a phone coming out that nobody's touched?
Yeah.
Nobody's seen it. Nobody knows if it's better.
Yeah.
There's brand advocates standing in line in the snow waiting to be the first one to have one.
Yeah.
Because they've done such a great job in exciting and filling needs and proving benefit and value to their horde of advocates, their customers.
Well, I definitely really appreciate that you said that, because when I wrote The Magical Guide to Bliss, my intention was to save myself. And literally write a guide for myself so I could basically navigate out of a really painful period. Like you had said before, what solutions do you have that will solve the pain? And I love that you said that, because for me, it was very cathartic in writing. And I think for you, what you're going to be doing, and it's going to really be profound, is help engage others in what you do so well. And that's been your whole career, building to that moment where you are able to actually, in written form, provide this guide for other people as to your extremely valuable insights that you have. And I think that, it's one of the coolest things I ever found with regard to the book is that after you speak and people do align with you, they like you, they want a piece of you to take him home. Like you're not gonna take you home, but they want a piece of you to take home with them so that they could have it at their own, to look through and to peruse, and they're still going to want to hear from you if they liked your brand because of the way you speak. And I think that the way you do educate other people, though, Andrew, is with a very it's a non I guess not the it's not an offensive tone. Like you're not a troll. You really truly come to the table wanting to help people, like the hunter you are, the excitement that it gives you, the passion. And even as Steve says, is that our passion drives us to have healthier lives. So when you're following your bliss, so to speak, the universe does open doors and you find people like this to have extraordinary conversations with. And I know that for you, the best tools or practices that you've used to manifest this journey so far, I would love for you to share a couple of those with the audience tonight, because I think in essence, at the end of any conversation, you generally want people to have tools that they can use to help them start.
One of the things that really strikes me the most, that probably sounds a little counterintuitive, I really don't care if people like me. I don't. I'm not out looking for likes. I joked the other day on LinkedIn, there's this whole movement of people that if they post something and they don't get a bunch of likes, they're and if they don't have 10,000 connections of people that I call vanity connections, people they're never going to benefit or know.
Explain that.
So I went to the supermarket and I bought some eggs, and they would not take my likes in payment for the eggs.
You wouldn't take your likes.
I was furious. And then I showed them how many connections I had. I said, doesn't this buy me something? And they went, sir, do you have any cash?
Tell them you're an influencer and that you have so many people.
Yeah. Well, there are two rules. The way to know that somebody is never going to influence me is when their title says they're an influencer.
Ah, good to know.
The way that I know I'm not going to be inspired is when the sentence starts with, I'm going to tell you this to inspire you. Those are absolutes.
It's not.
You know how you know if you're inspiring? People listen to what you have to say and they go, wow, that really inspired me. Then you know, because you don't get to decide. We joked when you asked me for my bio and you said you didn't put in there that you're funny. And I said, well, if I say that I'm funny, I probably won't be.
Oh my God.
So I'm interested in people who somehow produce something and are positive and curious and capable and all of those types of things.
Yeah.
Those are the people I want in my life.
Yeah, I agree.
If you don't produce it, and producing doesn't mean you got to be a businessman making money. Producing could be art. Producing could be teaching. Producing could be gardening. But people who don't do anything are fine, and they're welcome to do that. But they're usually not the people that I tend to hang around with.
Well, I like something with regard to the do. I think when you're talking about somebody who's inspirational, bringing something positive, and don't explain to people that you are inspirational or funny, but just show up as your authentic self. Is that what I understand you to say?
Yeah, it's part of it. Yeah, it's most people don't even know what the most interesting part of them is, and they try to be something that they're not.
Interesting.
So some of the people in my life, and I'll give you an example. There's a woman named Jan who I met through very odd circumstances. Who, when I was looking to get a dog,
you know, Andrew.
I was looking to get a dog, and she ran a rescue for the breed of dog that I wanted to get. And she's a wonderful person, and through a series of events, she took a liking to what I had done to help somebody else out. And she said, I have this dog who was sick as a puppy. I can't sell him. And he really needs a home. So I went to where she lived and met the dog and just fell in love with. He's now my dog, Tiny.
Tiny.
He was a sick puppy. He's the most wonderful dog. But she and her husband are truly, genuinely good people of a complete and total opposite ideology to me. And what that means isn't important for this.
Yeah.
But these are people who are in my life. We disagree on certain things, but at the core, we have a common tie that's required. They're really hardworking. They're very intelligent. They really care about people. They care about animals. They're highly productive, and they do good with everything that they do. She and her husband are wonderful people. Awesome. If you knew them and you knew me, you would probably say there's no way that these people are in each other's lives. I to this day, I'm grateful for this wonderful dog that I got and the relationship I have, and how much I learn by listening to them talking about things that are opposite of my belief structure. This new age where your internet can figure out what you like and only shows you stories that meet your model of the world is dangerous. I want to know what people who disagree with me think, because there may be some seeds in there that can make me a better person.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic. That's a really good point. You know, I was listening to Gail King today, and she says, I don't care if you don't agree with me socially. I don't care if you don't agree with me on a political scale. I think that we have to agree that that each of us, that we see each other's humanity. And I think what you just said there nails that on the head.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, with someone being able to express their humanity, whatever that looks like in ideology, whatever, you see a perspective, like we were talking about at the beginning, that you hadn't seen before. So it changes you for the better, I would say, because, you know, when you're exposed, and I think that this is what travel, right? You said travel does for you, is that expands. And I know Camila is my friend, and she travels like crazy. She's always on an adventure. But I think what it does is it not only, you know, rejuvenates you, but it also opens you up to places and people that you would have never known before. And keeping that in mind, I want to go back to the beginning of the interview when we got together here tonight, and I asked you to set an intention and then pick a number. So what was your intention for tonight?
To hang out with my buddy Meg and have a great conversation. I can't think of a time over the almost 30 years that we've known each other, that the conversation hasn't made life better.
Yeah, that's true.
So, you know, I was, well, I guess some folks can hang out and listen to us yammer. That was my intention.
Listen to us yammer is right. And then what exactly was the number that you picked to match that? And it's always
253 out of your book.
253. And you have the book, yes?
Ta-da!
There you go.
By the way, if you don't have the book, you should have the book. It's really well done. And it's kind of one of those things where there are a lot of books you have to read from front page to back page. And there's other books that you can just open it up at any time and find something that's a pearl, and it's kind of neat to randomly be able to open it up and find something to go,
yeah,
that's interesting, that's good.
Yeah,
I like that there's a lot of different ways that the book can be used.
That's amazing. And so what does 253 speak to tonight?
It says that I won a free dinner at oh no, that's a wrong book.
Did you win the lottery? Wait, wasn't there a comment with regard to the lottery today? I thought I saw somewhere with regard to you.
If you want to have fun,
yes.
And this is a tip for anybody out there. Next time you go to a Chinese restaurant and they bring out the fortune cookies, make sure the waiter or waitress is standing right next to you. Crack open the cookie, hold up the paper, and go, "Wow, a free meal!"
Oh my God, that's awesome.
Instead of reading the fork and just watch the reaction.
I never.
No free meal.
There you go. You want to manifest the life you want? Just go ahead and open the cookie. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the new pointless platitude. Open your cookie.
Pointless platitudes are fantastic. There you go. What does it say?
If you want to succeed in life, open your cookie. Actually, the other book that I always tell people to read is If You Find the Buddha on the Road, Kill Him. It's about.
Not really.
It's a brilliant book. It goes back to the Sight days. It basically, as people seek their guru, they have to recognize that guru is probably just as damaged as they were at some point in their life.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic. The humanity right there, right in front of you.
I think it came out in the 60s, and someone had recommended it to me, and I was like, I'm not reading that book.
I love
it. I saw it at a used bookstore for like 25 cents.
Oh my God. I
wore it out.
Yeah, I got to get that. That's an amazing book, it sounds like. So read your intention.
So it's August 19th, Grateful for Connections.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
Some people come into our lives and quickly go. Some people move our souls to dance. They awaken us new understanding with the passing whisper of their wisdom. Some people make the sky the sky more beautiful to gaze upon. They stay in our lives for a while, leave footprints on our hearts, and we're never ever the same. From someone named Flavia, is it Whedon?
Whedon, yeah. Yep.
So, I mean, if that isn't us, we're in our lives together, we're out, we have our families, and the funny thing is that there's such an impression over the years also with your sister Amy and others in that sort of group.
Yes.
The conversation picks up right where it left off, and it's one of those things where you know somebody matters when the name pops up and you smile.
Yeah, I love that. That's amazing. That's amazing. Yeah. Well, I have to say, it's always a pleasure talking to you, Andrew. And I certainly, I like the concept. Wait, before we leave, you promised me one thing, and I told you we're going to don our tiaras together tonight.
Do I want
your own?
Which one do I want? My.
Oh yeah, he definitely.
This one or my Burger King tiara?
You don't have to put the tiara on, but definitely put your crown on, because I think that you have to own it. And I think that when you walk around the world and you feel like at least you're wearing that. I think I sent you out.
I gotta look hip. I gotta have it on.
There you go. Well, it's definitely the Burger King. You can name it whatever you want. But I thank you for at least engaging with that. You did ask for one, so I made sure you had one for this interview. So if you do happen to end up on my podcast, you might just get a tiara too. And on a squash. There you go. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. So I wanted to just remind everybody that we all are here on purpose to be delivered creators of our lives. I think that goes without saying. You and your ability to create through your woodworking, your ability to build business, and to even your knitting and all of the above. That is what
Here's my crown.
There you go. There you go. Now, see, I wanted to share that. He's showing us a beautiful, beautiful, what is it?
Unfinished hat.
It's an unfinished hat. And he does it in Ohio, so it looks like it would at least keep you warm. I don't know. You kind of look like you would be able to be in the movie Frozen with that thing, you know? Something really Nordic for sure, right?
If it makes you feel any better, I'm in Cleveland and it's 60 degrees today. So
there you go, in the middle of March. So there you go. But I do want to give the final inspirational, perhaps funny word to Andrew tonight before we go. And off you go. Go ahead, Andrew.
The funny word?
Final inspirational or funny? You get to pick.
Enjoy every sandwich. That was, you know the origin of that?
No, I don't. Tell us.
One of the greatest musicians, one of my favorites of all time, was a guy named Warren Zevon. And some people know him from the Werewolves of London, but that was a minor part of his incredible career.
Oh, I love that.
And he discovered that he was very sick and dying of a horrible type of cancer. And he decided, rather than just lay down and die, he was going to make a final album. And he had all of his friends in the music industry come and play with him on this album. And it's some of the most inspirational music. And his final thing was to go on the David Letterman show. And on David Letterman says, well, we know that you're not long for the earth. What do you know, or what inspiration can you give to the rest of the world that they don't know? And his response was, enjoy every sandwich.
Enjoy every sandwich. Okay.
Yeah.
So on this 9th of May in 2020, Andrew wants you all to go out in the world and make sure you enjoy every sandwich. Certainly enjoy every connection that you are with when you eat those sandwiches. And, you know, honestly, I think that, you know, I hope that all of you gain some wisdom tonight with regard to some area in your life. I mean, Andrew certainly has a plethora to share. His experiences run from the left to the right, back to the center again. And I think that one of the things that certainly I'll take away from this conversation is you really do better in life by opening yourself up to so many different people, because at the end of the day, you will learn something that you didn't know before. Whether or not it's good, bad, or indifferent, you know, you can make that determination. But to have that conversation with other extraordinary people, it does enhance your life. So I want to thank you again, Andrew, for this wonderful opportunity to talk to you tonight. Remember, we're all here as deliberate creators of our life. Let your soul be guided by your dreams, and let's all together raise the positive vibration on this planet so that we all can live our bliss. Wear your Burger King crowns or put it on a squash. There you go.
And by the way, if you enjoy every sandwich, it's not keto, and don't use the gluten-free bread. It's no fun.
Okay, for sure. And I will be putting Andrew's information in the feed tonight. So if you do want to contact him, certainly I think he's open to it. As far as I know, if he's not, he'll just probably write something really funny.
Never. How dare you?
How dare I? So, you know, let's go out there and gain more wisdom in March and be open-minded and not get too scared of what's going on in the world. And you know, instead of getting, you know, fearful, start asking really good questions, like Andrew says, and with different ways to learn more about life. So continue to spread the love, and blessings and bliss, everybody. Have a great night. Thank you again, Andrew. Have a wonderful.
Thank you so much.
All right.